And once again, I want to say greetings to each and every one of you, Aquaba, and welcome. Welcome to another round of the Conscious Rasta Report here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, here on livinginblack.com. My name is Keedy Owado, aka the Conscious Rasta. Weekday mornings, you and I get together live. We come at you from 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's 12 noon Eastern Time, 5 p.m. GMT, and 8 p.m. East Africa time. We get together with you and we deal with culture, consciousness, historical perspectives. We deal with entertainment, economics, education, health, labor, law, politics, religion, family conflict, future studies, all areas of human interactivity and development. Today's date is Tuesday. It is the third day of December, 2024 in the Western calendar, 6265 in the Kemetic calendar, to which we have realigned our cultural clock. Welcome to the seventh millennium. You have found your family in a peaceful place here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, and livinginblack.com. I think we have a compelling discussion for you today. Let me introduce this conversation, which is entitled Building a Bridge to Angola Investment. My guest, Glenn Carey, has educated himself to be an expert on the West African nation of Angola. His insights are very valuable, as too many of us across the diaspora know so little about our connections to this ancient empire. Today, as I speak, President Biden is in Angola, negotiating the last important African trade deal of his administration. We need to know what's going on, and our conversation will be revealing and inspiring. Just a few notes on my brother Glenn Carey. He is a young brother, 59, born in Macon, Georgia, outdoor enthusiast, loves urban farming and traditional farming and specialty farming. And we're going to be talking about Angola's agriculture, which is very significant. And in 2002, he married an Angolan, and he is employed with the U.S. Postal Service, health educator, enjoys cooking, building, and tiny homes, and a whole bunch of great things. Hey, man, I'm sure these will come up in our conversation today. Let me welcome to the stage my brother, Glenn Aquaba. Welcome. How are you today, dear brother?
I'm very well. Thank you, brother Keedy, for that warm introduction. And I'm so delighted to be here because I know at this moment in time, it was God's hand that brought me here.
That's right. That's right. You and I have been exchanging notes via social media on the research that you have been discovering about Angola. And it's been very, very enlightening, and so many different things that you have informed me of. You know, I try and stay very well informed of Pan-African affairs, but it's good to have eyes and ears beyond ourselves. Just tell us a little bit about your background, your passion for Angola, and then let's get into the heart of these conversational points we have for today.
Well, I must start with the fact that I was led spiritually to marry a person that I met in Atlanta, Georgia, who was less than a year in the United States when I first met her. 3, 4, 5 years later, we were married in the state of Georgia. And that was after I had traveled to Luanda, Angola in 2001 to meet her family before we got married.
Mm-hmm.
And I must say this. If you are familiar with Queen Nzinga, you are pretty much familiar with the energy of most of the women from Angola, because they have an innate fighting spirit you just don't see often.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and that also leads us to understand how many of us here in the U.S. are actually of Angolan ancestry
Oh,
because,
yes, many of us are.
yeah, go ahead, elaborate on that. Please do.
Yes, many are us are from Angola, but we are not aware of it due to one simple roadblock, language barrier. Because the
Hmm.
official language is Portuguese, we tend not to pursue it as fluid as we would if it was English.
Yes,
Uh,
it doesn't make it a convenient trade location. Am I correct? Or not trade, but
exactly.
travel,
Tra-
vacation travel location.
yes, it does not make a very easy travel vacation for many because we tend to do research before we do travel. And
Correct.
when you research Angola, you find out about the historical horrors that happened there that are no longer there. Let me give you an example.
Hmm.
Landmines. You might remember on television about 20, 25 years ago, Princess Diana made a visit to Angola for one reason,
Hmm.
because Angola had more landmines than any other location worldwide. That is enough to deter anyone from wanting to go visit.
That's right.
But let me inform the world,
Hmm.
Angola and the United Nations and other organizations that are concerned went in and detonated most of those landmines, so you don't have to fear traveling to Angola because of those landmines.
And of course, given the deep historical background, where did those landmines come from?
Surely not from Africa,
Hmm.
because we have no factories that build them.
They are a legacy of the Angolan Civil War, in which the
Exactly.
United States backed the rebel group against the government, the chosen, democratically chosen government, the rebel group UNITA. You know that background.
Yes, I know that background. The U.S. government supported apartheid South Africa.
Hmm.
Apartheid South Africa, in turn, supported the largest tribe in Angola, and that tribe was the Umbumbundu, which is in the southern part of Angola.
Hmm.
Now, this civil war that you're speaking of happened between three warring tribes. One in the middle, you I mean, one in the southern end, UNITA, that you referred to, and then there
Hmm.
was one in the middle, and that was what there was one in the middle, and then there was one on the northern end. The one
Hmm.
on the northern end, they spoke uh, a different language, and half of them were in the Congo, and the other half was in northern Angola.
Hmm.
Okay, uh, the tribe on the southern end, uh, Umbim, Umbimbundu, and then the tribe in the middle, the Umbum, the Umbundu. Wow, wow,
Hmm.
wow. Those names are
Yeah, well, I can understand, especially when we're looking at it as a tribal war. But from my
uh-huh.
understanding, the large rift there was the Cold War between the U.S. and the NATO capitalist countries and Russia, the Soviet Union, I should say, Cuba, and the socialist countries. And when I'm writing a book right now,
Uh-huh.
disaster preparations for World Wars V and VI, and we talked about the so-called Cold War. It was not a Cold War; it was a blazing hot war, and Angola was one of the most important front lines of that hot war called the Cold War.
Yes, that Cold War in Angola really was a proxy war, because you had the Soviets, you had the Soviets and Cuba supporting uh, the group that is in charge right now, that's been in charge since independence. And then you had,
And isn't
uh,
that the MPLA?
yeah, the MPLA, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
MPLA, that tribe sits right in the middle of Angola, and they are the second largest tribe in Angola.
Mm-hmm.
Uh huh.
Well, there's some good background there, no doubt. One of the other things you informed me of is that right now, the President of the United States is in Angola. How many people among the Pan African Black nationalists or Black Power community are talking about what is Joe Biden doing in Angola this week?
Yes, that's on the tip of everybody's tongue. Now, the trip, the initial travel for Biden into Angola was about 2 months ago. They had to cancel it because of the hurricanes that devastated the southeast part of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So Biden decided to postpone his trip to Angola until now.
Why is he there? Excuse me. A
Now,
little bit of.
the main reason why Biden is there is economics. It has to do with the Lobito corridor, which is an which is an old rail line that was constructed during colonialism. It was completely destroyed during the Civil War. And so what happened, the United States went in with the European Union, and they have placed billions of dollars to repair that rail line from Lobito, Angola, all the way over to Zambia, where Zambia border meets the DRC border.
Mm-hmm.
And what they are there doing is making it easy to transport those vital minerals that's in Zambia and the DRC over to the shortest through the shortest route, which is to the Atlantic coastline of Angola to Lobito, Angola.
So, from my understanding, this railway commitment, and there's been, I think, some 5.1 billion dollar commitment to build this SGR standard gauge railroad, but it's not for altruistic reasons for the development of Angola transportation within the country and for the Angola people. It's really about Western countries' access
To
through
the
this
critical minerals.
west to the critical minerals of not only Angola but DRC and Zambia. And this is an area where they are competing for global economic hegemony against China, who's been doing the same thing multiple times on the East Coast. Am I correct?
You're exactly correct. Now, attempting to catch up with China in this arena for all uh, possible purpose is impossible because because China has invested so much more over so uh, over such a long period of time that
Mm-hmm.
the best that the U.S., the and the UK and the European Union can do is is to obtain what the Chinese have left behind. And so there is no way that the U.S. and 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 the European Union will be able to reach the level that China is in Africa, especially when you look at the trust that China has already developed from so from from such a long period of time, investing a whole lot of money in Africa, especially when you look at what they've done in Angola and Zambia and the
Hmm.
DRC.
That's right. Well, we're obviously going to be returning to this global economic hegemony competition during the course of our conversation. But what you're describing reminds me very, very much of the 1884-85 Berlin Conference, the first scramble for Africa. It wasn't the first scramble for Africa, but it's kind of been termed that way. This scramble for Africa reminds me of way that 7 European countries carved up Africa at that conference in Berlin. United States and Russia were observers, but were not colonizing, as were Britain, France, Germany, Holland, Belgium, Portugal, and Spain that were in
Spain,
attendance at this conference.
right.
So, are we witnessing in this Biden move there today? Because Africa is huge with tremendous mineral wealth. Is this part of a new scramble for Africa?
Without a doubt. And most
Please
people,
elaborate.
yes, most people see it for what it is. It is a new scramble. And with this new scramble, we have a different twist. And that different twist is the presence of major competition from China, which will be used to leverage, which will be used as leverage by many African countries to be able to achieve a large economic gain that were not available during the first and the second uh, scramble for Africa. So yes, this is definitely the third scramble for Africa. The first one was enslavement, and then the second one was in the 1880s that you described eloquently, and now we are at the third scramble for Africa, critical minerals that's going on right now. And it just so happened that Angola is in the right location at the right time. And it is my insight and my understanding from my research that the leadership of Angola is determined to come out on top with all the business dealings that we see going on right now.
Angola has tremendous natural resources. Land
Tremendous
mass,
natural resources.
yeah, land mass, it's one of the most impressive geographies on Earth. It has a dynamic population growth, and because of its oil development over the past probably 4 decades, it's a wealthy nation. Yet, Angola seems to be constricted by its internal dynamics. Why are some of the reasons that Angola doesn't have a higher place of status and influence in the world?
Mm, great question. And the answer to that is the one that we know: corruption. Corruption from top to bottom. And what we have witnessed in the last 6 to 7 years is that the new president in place has set up a system where they are going in and retrieving all that they can from people who were in position to embezzle uh, resources and funds from Angola. They have done that, and they've been very successful in doing so, especially as it relates to the former president's son, and the former president's daughter. So
Uh huh.
yes, so
Yeah.
yes,
What we are describing and what we know about what's taking place in Angola reminds me of this term used to describe leaders of many developing nations. They call them kleptocracies. You know that word,
yes,
kleptocracy.
yeah, yeah, kleptomaniac, kleptocracies. And unfortunately, that was a way of life all across the continent. But the good news for Angola is there are systems in place already that deter that, and they have changed uh, the dynamics. They have changed uh, the different structures that allow these kleptomaniacs, these these kleptomaniacs to come in and steal easily from the country. So
I'm look
yes, yes.
I'm looking at a headline in the background from the BBC News. The date on this is December 20, 2023. The
Uh-huh.
headline refers to the daughter of the former president of Angola, President Eduardo dos Santos, his daughter Isabel dos Santos. The headline says Isabel dos Santos, Angolan billionaire, hit with a 580 million pound asset freeze. Is this the beginning of the end of this kleptocratic family empire there in Angola?
Oh, the beginning of the end, which were years ago, because they were able to. Uh, when I say they, I'm speaking of Angola and several European countries set up what was what I saw as investigation that was done by their financial system, where for years they took the time to document how she went in and stole so much money from the country, and and Angola was able to work with those European countries to retrieve money that had been taken away. And this happened more than once. It happened uh, to my to the best of my memory. They were able to retrieve on two or three occasions a large amount of money that she had stolen from the government. And since the beginning of this, she has been doing whatever she could to protect those stolen resources. But still, Angola partnered with European countries to go in and do what was needed to find those amount of money that she had hidden in certain banks in Europe and across the world, and return most of that money to Angola.
Yeah, there was recently, not so recent, about a year ago, a
Uh-huh.
set of discoveries that a journalist society of investigative researchers had found called the Pandora Papers. Are you familiar with the Pandora Papers?
Ah, wow. I'm familiar with the Pandora paper, uh, not where I want to be, but yes, I'm familiar with them a little bit.
Yeah. Well, let me describe how they fit into this conversation as we're talking about these kleptocracies and these corrupt bureaucrats. Is that the
Uh-huh.
Pandora Papers documented on a global scale how
Uh-huh.
wealthy families hid their money. and they would bury them in layers and layers of trusts and assets and all of these different things, and they'd shift them around the global banking infrastructure until the money just disappeared. And of course, they didn't want to pay taxes. Several African families, including the family of the Kenyatas, who first there was what was the papa's name? He was one of the first African independent leaders, Jomo Kenyatta. Then
Uh-huh.
Uhuru
Out of
Kenyatta,
Kenya.
his son, was discovered having secreted away over $30 million, according to the Pandora Papers. And a number of other families across Africa were in these papers. Of course, the British royal family was in the papers. One of the biggest headquarters of the secreting of this money was in, I think it was South Dakota. United States was ahead of the hide the money global infrastructure. And of course, the Dos Santos family was secreting away a lot of money in those Pandora Papers. I'll try and find a link to that in the background. But just your
Okay.
comment. Is it any surprise to find that when it comes to the wealthy around the planet, billionaire class around the planet, that they cheat at everything, and the Dos Santos family was in that group?
Mm. Wow.
So the question is, are you surprised that this is
I'm,
what's happening?
I'm not surprised at all because uh, the president's daughter, she was giving positions of authority over major companies in Africa, such as the oil company and other companies in Angola as well. So yes, that does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, the just I have this reference. I'll just briefly refer to it, and I'll put it up so that our listeners can do the type of research that you do, that I do,
Uh-huh.
that helps us connect the dots and see the bigger picture. This article is from the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. That was the group responsible for revealing the Pandora Papers. And here's what the headline of this particular one says: Web of corruption around Isabel dos Santos still being untangled 2 years after the Luanda leaks. The Pandora
Yeah.
Papers shed a new light on the offshore dealings of powerful figures close to Angola's former president, who were recently sanctioned by the U.S.
Mm.
And I'm looking for a dollar figure in this article, whether they can kind of determine how much was being stolen. Um, but here, just one paragraph. The Luanda leaks investigation showed how Dos Santos got access to lucrative deals involving oil, diamonds, telecoms, and supermarkets, often courtesy of government decrees signed by her father. She also benefited from insider deals, preferential loans, and contracts fueled by public money.
Yes.
She claimed the allegations against her were false, but you seem to take a different perspective than what she claimed.
Yes. I definitely take a different perspective than what she claimed because uh, when I first started doing my research on Angola, I came across her name, and I was always on the lookout for what would happen to her, what will eventually happen to her uh, after we after Angola elected a new president, Lourenco. And see, Lourenco, when he came in, he did not show any mercy to her father, nor did he show any mercy to 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 his children. And he went after them, and he was able, like I said, he was able to retrieve a large sum of the money that was stolen from Angola.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Let's see if we can kind of turn around our perspective on what we have to share, what we have to reveal about Angola, I have pulled up a little piece of video. It's just about a minute long. And if you don't mind, let's go to this video file. I want to share this tab
Okay.
on Angola 2024. And as I say, it's just a very short piece. So let me push this up to so our audience can see it. And bear with me here. And here is the video. Can you see the? I presume you can see the screen.
Okay. Yes, I
Okay, here we
can. I
go.
can see the screen. The turnaround will blow your mind. That's Luanda Bay. That's Luanda Bay. A very beautiful city. Very beautiful. Your mic is off.
Yeah, as I said, there was a short piece. I let it loop through twice. It was just a video short. But you did recognize some of the scenes that were being shot there?
Yes, I did. Uh, I
Uh-huh.
was in I was in that city in 2001 and in 2019. When I came back in 2019, I couldn't believe my eyes, the progress that was made right there in Luanda, especially uh, near the Luanda Bay.
Well, talk to us, if you could. Paint a picture in our listeners' minds about Angola. I do know that we're in partnership with China construction companies.
Yes,
Angola had a housing boom that was unprecedented on the African continent. Yet, years later, many of those apartments remained unoccupied.
yes. Wow, you're exactly right.
Tell us what from your insider perspective, what
Yeah,
went on there?
yes. Uh, those apartments that were built by the Chinese and several of the high rises that were built by the Chinese, a large section of them today is unoccupied based on the fact that a large population of Angolan residents cannot afford to live there. All right. However, with the influx of new construction and new jobs coming, we are witnessing a lot of those unoccupied spaces being occupied.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, yes, there is a very large section away from the main city, and it's gorgeous. But like you said, it's predominantly unoccupied because most of the people in Angola simply cannot afford it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest problems in Angola, like most countries in Africa, is the deep level of poverty. And what I'm loving about the Angolan government is they are addressing this issue by bringing in new industry that brings in new jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
In December 2022, the United States hosted the second USA Africa Leadership Summit. The first one was held in August, early August, end of July 2014. I remember because I just was returning literally from Kenya as the traffic for the first summit was taking place. That was hosted by what was the mulatto's name? Obama.
Oh,
Bear
Obama.
with
Oh,
me.
yeah. Okay. Yes.
I had kind of pushed him out of the center of my mind, but
Uh-huh.
so Biden, Obama's vice president, held the second summit. Now, coming out of that summit was a number of commitments, but the major commitment that I saw coming out of that summit was this commitment to push at first some $3 billion into Angola for Angolan development, and then the later pledge of 5.1 billion to build the standard gauge railroad from Lusaka, Zambia to the Angolan coast. Was it the
Yeah. Yeah.
Lupita Railway?
Yeah.
What was
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Lobita, Angola, on the coast of southern Angola.
Yeah. So that railway, as the whole new network of standard gauge railways is being built across Africa, is very, very important for Africa's future development. My
Yes.
concern is that as the United States global empire is fading away, largely due to de-dollarization, but largely due to people just fed up with the United States dominating their lives and the Bretton Woods organizations, the IMF and the World Bank and militarism and all that dominating their lives, they're fed up with it. And so they're pushing the empire back. Is this Angola move a strategic chessboard move to attempt to retain global power, influence, and hegemony, especially over emerging Africa?
Yes. Well, I don't see it as the U.S. trying to hold on to hegemony over Africa. I see it as a desperation attempt by the U.S. government just to stay relevant
Mm-hmm.
on the global scene, because the U.S. government is fully aware of the impossibility of catching up with China on the African continent. Now, China has zero worries about the U.S. catching up with them, even though the U.S. is heavily involved with the Lobito corridor. Uh, the Lobito corridor will not only be beneficial to the U.S., the EU, the West, it will be extremely beneficial to Angola and the other African countries, because they are demanding, and they are pushing that this rail line serve as an economic development opportunity for those who live nearby.
Yeah. In what you're talking about reminds me of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And yes,
Yes,
this railway, although it terminates on the west coast, and we know they're going to be rushing in to build up the seaports to ship the minerals and other products from Angola. We're going to get to those Angola's export list here in just a second. But
yes,
the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, that is the electricity to drive Africa's next level of development. This free trade agreement has been in place. I think it's about the end of its second or third year in place. I think it began in January 2021. I could be corrected there. Um, but it is the AFCFTA that our people across the diaspora should be focusing on, Brother Glenn, because
exactly.
there's tremendous opportunity there. Talk to us.
Yes, the opportunities, the opportunities are so huge. Just in Angola alone,
That's right.
I mean, just in Angola alone, someone wrote an article, and the title was, in general, how can one country have so much potential? And the
Hmm.
country this article was referring to was none other than Angola.
That's right.
Look
That's right.
at, let's take a look at tropical fruit production.
Mm-hmm.
Angola leads worldwide in tropical fruit production of the best quality.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. Now I do.
Yes,
Now we do.
now we do. Now, on the export end, Angola doesn't lead exporting. That's the business side of it. But
That's right.
when it comes to producing it, Angola is at the top
That's right.
globally of tropical fruit production. Now
And
that is a business within itself. Fruit juices, and like I
mm-hmm.
said, because of the quality of soil in Angola, virgin soil from
Mm-hmm.
top to bottom, uh, east west, you will find that if you do a business in Angola around fruit juice alone, you should be successful
Yeah. Yeah. I was
if your business
attempting
plan is right.
if the business plan is correct. You're right. I was
Uh-huh.
attempting to set up a deal with that with the wife of one of the ministers of parliament of Kenya.
Uh-huh.
After my 2014 trip, we actually met at their home, and she asked me about my experience in agriculture, etc. So we were attempting to put up a plan to
Uh-huh.
export some passion fruit juice, pineapple juice, and there were a couple of other juices that grew so well in that subtropical African environment. And as you mentioned, much of the soil is virgin, so it's coming
Yes,
out
much of it
organic.
is virgin. Yes.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So it's coming out organic at the top of the hierarchy. Now, let me just ask you this. Was the presence of so many landmines in Angola, had that been or has that been a hindrance to agricultural development over the decades?
Without a doubt, fear is a major deterrent, and no
Mm-hmm.
one wants to walk up on a landmine. Now,
Mm-hmm.
to
Or
this
have their
day,
children, or have their children's legs blown off from
yes,
landmines from that Cold War
yes, from
proxy
that Cold
experience.
War, yes,
Mm-hmm.
and unfortunately, Angola had more amputees per capita than any other country worldwide because of those
Wow.
landmines. That's a sad story, but we have to acknowledge it. I'm thankful that the government went in and did what it could do to remove as many and as soon as possible within the time that they had.
Mm-hmm. And it's still
Yes,
ongoing.
it's still ongoing. Now, when you look at the quality of agriculture that's is coming up out of Angola, I mean, from A to Z and then back from Z to A, it blows your mind.
Mm.
Take pineapple, for example.
Okay.
Fresh pineapple just grows wild in Angola. You you name it, you name any fruit, and chances are they grow wild in Angola. I had
Mm-hmm.
the experience of eating a papaya in the United States. It tasted so empty, I couldn't eat half of it. I
Mm-hmm.
said I'd never eat another papaya again. Fast forward, I'm in Angola. They give me a papaya in Angola. I couldn't stop eating the papayas in Angola. I had to have
That's
one
right.
every day.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how I felt about bananas in Ghana. When I discovered the taste
Uh,
of bananas in Ghana, it was like instant addiction. Give me more. Give me more. It can't be satisfied. And this is the same. It's true all over the continent.
all
Uganda
over the country.
Uganda is registered as the second highest number of organic farmers of any country in the world after
Mhm.
India. Uganda, Tanzania, also a huge number of organic farmers and organic production. It's all there for us to claim. I
It's
pulled this list. Your comment, and then I'm going to share this list I
uh,
pulled.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I pulled this list today. Angola's top exports primarily include number one, crude oil, and we obviously have to talk about Angola's oil production. Diamonds, Angola, one of the world's largest diamond producers, and diamonds
Yes.
are a key export. And of course, diamonds are a sister's best friend.
Yes. Yes.
Minerals, other minerals including iron ore, copper, also contribute to exports, but agricultural products include coffee. I've never seen Angola coffee in the market, sugar, and fish, although these are less significant compared to oil and diamonds, and then some manufactured goods as well. So, Angola, of course, the list of exports is much longer than that. But the agricultural exports that you are talking about are critical as Africa seeks to develop its next level of sovereign development. Africa must feed itself.
Africa must feed itself, and Africa is so strong. Africa could feed the entire world
That is
because
true.
it actually has that capacity. I have to give an example of mine. You spoke on coffee. Before
Hmm.
Angola, before Angola was oil, Angola was coffee. Yes.
Hmm.
Before oil was number one in Angola, coffee was number one. My best friend, Kisango dos Santos, mailed me from Angola fresh coffee and and honey. Honey is a major uh produce that comes out of Angola, and he mailed me fresh honey. I made a cup of coffee after I crunched the coffee. I made a cup of coffee with that coffee and the honey. It was by far the best cup of coffee I ever had. I had a
Wow.
friend. I had a friend in California. She said, "Send me some samples. I want to test them to see." She got back with me. She said, "The coffee and the honey came back 100% pure. 100% pure."
Wow.
So,
That's awesome.
right, right there in Africa is a golden opportunity for the African world to come together and sit at the table and devise a plan that centers around agriculture that would lift not just Africa, but the entire African world to a higher level.
That's right. That's right.
To a
I'm
higher
looking.
level.
Hmm. I'm looking in the background at a website called Brewology, and they have a long story: Angola coffee beans production facts, brewing and buying guides,
Mhm.
and the cost of Angolan coffee to export is rather low.
Uh,
But the
mm,
quality of Angolan coffee and what people talk about it, who have been consuming it, is rather high. How could we imagine that Africans in the diaspora could put together a consortium to go in and start shipping Angolan coffee out of
yeah,
the country and empower ourselves, creating our own brand here in the
yes,
United States and UK and other countries?
yeah. I'm about boots on the ground getting results.
Hmm. Hmm.
And like I said, I'm here right now today with my deep root connection in Angola because of God's hand. I know it's God's hand. I have a friend who happens to be not a member of my family in Angola, but he is my absolute best friend in Angola. He lived here for 20 plus years in Georgia. Okay. So all of my Angolan friends I've known 20 plus years. Now, Brother Kisungo has a global business name. He goes by the nickname The Hub. And he can set up with anyone that's interested in any business in Africa legally He can have that set up legally, okay,
Mm-hmm.
if we can find the time to come and sit at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
How much trouble is it for people of the United States and other diaspora countries? How much trouble is it to get Angola visa and to be able to engage in the very same trade you're talking about?
Oh, historically, to get an Angola visa was like pulling teeth. Okay. Now we're under a new administration. The new Angolan administration has made it so easy compared to what it used to be. Okay. As a matter of fact, if you're from the United States, you are in a long list of countries that can travel to Angola visa free.
Mm-hmm.
So Angola has come a long way. Angola has come a long way from the time when it was almost impossible to get a visa to visa free. I keep telling
Wow.
people Angola is on the move. Angola is about history. Angola is about business. And if we can sit down at any table, I can connect anybody that is interested in setting up businesses in Angola through my best friend, Kisongo dos Santos.
Wow. Now, the name
Free of
might
charge,
be,
free of charge.
yeah, the name might be rather familiar across Angola, but I'm hoping this is not the kleptocracy Dos Santos
Oh,
family, or
oh
is it?
yes, no. That name is very familiar around Angola and even Brazil, but he is not a part of that family.
Okay. And of course,
Yes,
Dos
that's one
Santos,
of the most famous names in Angola, but he's
yeah,
not a part of that clan.
yeah. And of course, the word Dos Santos' name translates to of the saints.
Wow.
So
Yes.
we're going to presuming a saintly family here, but whatever the case, by any means necessary, we have to transform our future. I encourage
Yes.
our listening audience today. If you have a comment, if you're listening today, do have an audience, even though I'll be honest with you, Brother Glenn, for the impact of this depth of this conversation we're having today. I think my audience is way too small. So I'm going to do the best I can after the program is completed to tell everybody you don't know what you missed. You got to catch this program. One of the things that I put on the list for a talking point for today, and this is something you informed me of, and I'm so very grateful for you, my brother. I really, truly am. I appreciate the work you do. Here's the headline from the New York Times, December 1st, 2024. So this is just 2 days ago.
Wow. Uh-huh.
Here's the headline: Why Black Americans Searching for Their Roots Should Look to Angola. Written by John
Yes.
Elligan, New York Times, December 1st.
Should
And
look to Angola. Yes.
for their roots. Here's just a couple of short paragraphs, and I'll have your comment. When President Biden visits the country this week, he is expected to highlight a largely overlooked bond between Angola and the United States that was born out of the transatlantic slave trade. They stood on a concrete platform over Cobblestone Plaza as slave traders, enslavers, cast their final judgment, gazing westward at a bend in the mighty Kwanzaa River where unknown horrors lay for the ancestors of millions of African Americans. The slave market in Masangano, a village in Angola, was likely the place where they were sold, or their ancestors were sold into bondage. It was a point of no return. Your comments, you know about this history.
Yes. I know about this, and to this day, I want to thank my family in Angola for taking me to the Kwanzaa River. Mesangano, it's called Fortaleza de Mesangano, is on the Kwanzaa River. And it was such a major point of enslavement in Angola. It, uh, that the Portuguese went in and they gave a name that sounds like uh Fortaleza there's another name for Fortaleza de Messangano. It's a longer
Mm-hmm.
name, and in that there's a word, there's a Portuguese word that means victory. And what is that victory? The victory is at there was a war between the Portuguese and the natives there. And the reason why the Portuguese were victorious is for one reason, and that reason we all know: they had guns. They had
Mm.
guns. Now, all over Angola, you'll find uh, enslavement structures of different size. The one that Biden is going to today, if not today, tomorrow, I visited in 2001 and in 2019. In this, okay, in this museum, you will shake in your feet because everything in there is original. There's the original bowl where they baptized our ancestors before going through the door of no return. And this is what the Portuguese said: if you have a soul, we baptize you. Da, 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 da. The original bowl is there. And they have the guns that they use to enslave our ancestors. We got to get to Angola and see this stuff, because if you combine all of the museums in America, you will never it will never equal out to what they have in Angola, my brother. Uh, they even have some structure. They have some enslavement, that some chains and bracelets, and you can see the name, the to some uh to Charles to Charlestown to Charlestown. Well, we know that is Charleston, South Carolina. We got to get to Angola. I'm not the greatest of communicators, but I can tell you what's in America pales to what is there in Angola. Over 50% of all Africans taken taken from the continent and brought to the Western Hemisphere. Over 50% came from the Angola region. We don't know what we're missing as far as identifying our history. Let's talk to Chris Tucker. Chris Tucker is in Angola on a regular. The Tucker family out of Hampton, Virginia, the first African family that was brought over in chains. As a matter of fact, the matriarch of the Tucker family is there in Angola. She's a part of the entourage of Biden entourage, because her family
Mm.
visit like almost every 2 years. And the Tucker family in Virginia is a member of the tourism board of Angola. So yes, we got to get to Angola, not just the history, but also the economic opportunities that there. I tell you, we we got to get there. And there are a lot of Angolans who speak English that are very fluent in English. So don't let the fact that you don't speak Portuguese stop you from going to Angola. If you want to see the best of our history, is in the Angola region.
Hmm. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. You got me excited. Of course, I'll be honest with you. It's easy to get me excited about the possibilities of traveling to Africa, finding a collaborative circle of people, and begin to trade, do technology transfer, micro investments, all of the things that we can do. It doesn't cost a whole lot of money to begin these processes. Isn't that true?
Does not, it does not take a whole lot of money. So the money is not an issue. But I got to leave some. I have to drop some more gems in the audience lab. There's a
Okay.
new association in Atlanta, Georgia.
Hmm.
AAG. Remember this name. It's the Association of Angolans in Georgia. It's a new organization that was formed this year. Now, they are working with friends of Angola all around the United States. And we are eyeing the possibility of a Georgia Angola Chamber of Commerce to be situated be, somewhere between Atlanta and Savannah so that we could strategically serve all of Georgia. So yeah, so we gonna bring some of Angola to the state of Georgia, and then after we get situated in Georgia, we're going to do the same thing in the Carolina. We're going to create the Carolina Angola Chamber of Commerce to be situated between Atlanta and Charlotte. And the midpoint there is Greenville, Spartanburg, South Carolina. So yeah, we're on the move. You, if you can't come to Angola, we're going to bring Angola to you.
Hmm. Awesome. Awesome. Now, when we're looking at population density in various countries around the world, the most population dense countries tend to be European countries as well as some East South Asian countries. From South Korea to Japan, I think Japan is probably one of the most population dense, Singapore, very dense. But when we look across the African continent, we see the exact opposite. You'd
The
earlier talked
exact
about the
opposite.
immense resources and the land size of Angola
Yes.
so tremendous. What does Angola look like when you fly over the country?
Oh my goodness. When you look at Angola's landscape, only one thing can come to mind. I'm in heaven. I, and let me paint the picture for you. On the
Mm-hmm.
northern end, you got the rainforest. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
On the very northern end, you got the rainforest. On the very southern end, you have the desert. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not far from the desert on the southern end, you have the mountains that run up through the center of Angola, almost to the northern end. Okay, now
Mm-hmm.
imagine this. Imagine being on the southern end of Angola, coming down the mountain, and you find yourself in the desert, but then you keep moving, and then the desert turns into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is what we're looking at. If anyone ever get a chance, Google Angola rivers. There is no other country on the globe that has the concentration of large rivers that Angola has. Not just Africa, but worldwide.
Well, I just did what you asked us to do, and here is a list of the rivers of Angola. Stop me when you when you heard enough. The and excuse me, my tongue has been out of the motherland for a long time, but I think I'll be able to get through this. The
It's not gonna be
Chi,
easy.
yeah, Chiluango River, the Congo River, which we know is a hallmark of the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of the Congo,
Uh-huh.
the Inkisi River, the Kasai River, that's another Congolese province, so we can see how deeply connected Angola and the Democratic Republic of the Congo are.
Deeply
Kwango River,
connected.
you had mentioned earlier the Kwango River, Kwilu
Uh,
River, Kwenge River, Wamba River, Quilo River, Combo River, Louis River, Luange River, Lushiko River, Lavua River, Chicapa River, Luachimo River, Chiumbe River, and Luia River. And that's about a third of the list.
It's hard to travel in Angola and not come across a river in a short amount of time. And because of these large rivers, and because of the fact that real, real tilapia prefer large rivers, the tilapia in the United States is not real tilapia. The real tilapia, the tilapia that God made is native to Africa and Africa only and the surrounding area.
Mm-hmm.
Because of all these large rivers in Angola, you have an overabundance of fish and seafood. An overabundance. Not to
Wow.
mention you're on the coast.
My brother,
Angola
I
not
can.
only, yeah,
No, continue.
Angola has the savannas. Uh, Angola has some of the most beautiful waterfalls. Some Angola has whitewater rafting. There are several clubs in the United States, white brothers, that travel to Angola every year for whitewater rafting and rock climbing. I tell you,
Wow.
rock
That is
climbing,
that's
rock
exciting
climbing
because
in
so many
Angola.
people are yeah, so many people are moving into rock climbing as an athletic and fitness paradigm program. So
It,
Angola is on the front edge, ready to receive this global
ready to
travel.
receive.
Hmm.
If you want to see the majestic, the beautiful scenery of large rocks, yes, Zimbabwe got the rocks, but Angola is right there with Zimbabwe with some beautiful rocks, beautiful rocks.
Wow.
And every year, our white brothers are there climbing them, and every
Hmm.
year, our white brothers are there white water rafting. So I have to ask the question: why can't we?
Yes, and why can't we be part of
Why
the
can't we?
partnership that's accommodating them and taking
Yes,
their money for the magnificent travel tourism? That is
yes.
part of our destiny, and that's part of this new scramble for Africa. We do have one comment that's come in, and great to see our people in the house. I'm looking at you now. We have Skeleton Davis in the house, Dr. Feelgood in the house. Aquaba, welcome to you. Tyrell, brother Tyrell. He asked the question on our Rumble page. Peace, Baba Kitty, and the LIB family. Thank you, Baba Glenn, for being here today. Angola is my paternal ancestral home. We talked a little bit earlier about many Africans in America can actually
Yes.
trace their ancestry to Angola.
A lot of them just don't know. Chris Tucker did his African ancestry, and this is why he's there every year.
Hmm. Wow. Have you had a chance to communicate with Chris Tucker about his passion for Angola?
Oh, you know what? I have yet to, but check this out. My niece lives in the same community he lives in
Okay, all
Atlanta.
right.
So
I'm
so reaching out to him will not be a problem. Will not be a problem.
Yeah, because this conversation, and you and I have talked several times in the last few days, and we've been exchanging these communications for quite some time. But
Uh,
this conversation has me fired up. I'm ready, willing, and able to maybe we can create a Zoom conference and invite people who might be curious about the opportunities for investing and developing Angola.
uh-huh.
Uh, I'm thinking that would be a good idea. Your thought?
Oh man, I love it. I got both feet, both hand in.
Hmm.
With my head if need be.
That's right. That's right.
I I have deep connections in there. And like I said, I free of charge. All I want is let's get this thing rolling.
Yeah, yeah, let's get this thing going and build for intergenerational wealth.
Yes, Angola is so rich. It's unbelievable. I got to tell you this story. My
Hmm.
wife told me one of their friends, one of their friends was able to penetrate security because most of the diamonds northeast Angola. One of her friends was able to penetrate security. Now in this area, there's so many diamonds, you can just rub the top of the ground and find some. So
Mm.
he did. Security saw him. He ran into the deep forest. Once he came out of the deep forest and made it home, he was skin and bone, but he still had his diamonds in his pockets.
Wow.
This is how
Wow.
rich Angola is. Don't let
Wow.
the Portuguese language deter you. A lot of them are very fluent in English. As a matter of fact, my wife speaks 6 languages. My wife, mom, fluent, distinguished professor of geology, fluent in 10 languages. So a
Wow.
lot of them speak English.
Hmm. Yeah. So there's no restriction as we can find collaborative partners that can be the bridges not just between English and Portuguese or
Uh-huh.
African Portuguese, but bridges between all the indigenous local regional languages that will further our collaboration cooperation.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Even
I
my
want to
brother, even my brother
hmm
Kasango is fluent in 8 languages, and 2 of those are the native African languages.
hmm Awesome,
Yes,
awesome, awesome. I want to remind our listening audience this is the third day of December. This is the third day of our December LIB Radio Fund Drive. Now, the conversation you are listening to today between myself and Brother Glenn, Baba Glenn, is radical, revolutionary. You are not going to hear this conversation on CBS, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, all of these liberal news media, NPR. You're not going to hear this conversation. I did hear mention of Joe Biden in Angola today as I listened to my NPR broadcast, but they gave it about 2 sentences and then immediately switched to war, which is what the Western media wants us to think about what's happening around the world today. It's all about war and conflict. But what we are doing is doing our best to excite our people into the possibilities that we will be powerful players in the global game of sustainable economic development. Can I just ask you, who are in our listening audience today, to take just a minute and go to libradio.com. That's HTTP LIB Radio. And I want you to scroll to the bottom of the page, and I'll put up a link to where you can make a brief donation. If you think that this conversation between Baba, Glenn, and myself is worth $10 investment, then go ahead, put your stakes in the game. If we don't put any stakes in the game, it's a guaranteed loss.
a
So LIB
guaranteed loss.
Radio is here. Talk to us about Baba Glenn. Why should people care to invest in having our own media, which can go in depth? No other radio station, I guarantee, this week is going into this much depth about Angola, although the president of the country is visiting there right now.
Although the president is there, you don't see in-depth reporting. And the reason you ain't gonna get the in-depth reporting is because they know if they give in-depth reporting, they gonna switch, they gonna turn on a switch that can't be turned off.
Mm. So
And,
that's
and,
what
and,
we
and
aim to do. We aim to
yes,
turn that switch on. That's what we do.
that's right. We are here to turn that switch on, never ever to be turned off. And
That's
we
right.
got to continue communicating like this. And what comes to mind is the old saying, bless the child that has his own. And we need
Ashe.
our own. Bless
Mama
the
may have,
child that has his own.
Mama may have, and we're talking about Mother Continent, Mama Africa, and
Yes.
Papa may have Unfortunately, in this case, Papa is the enslaver and rapist, and the one who stole destiny. But God bless the child who's got their own, we've got
Yes,
our own. So
we
people, contribute just a little bit. Doesn't take a whole lot, but if a whole lot of us contribute a little, then we can make moves in this game, including investing and developing Angola. Now, your comment on this fact, and we've got about 10 more minutes before we're going to wrap it up. Your comment on this fact. When in 2007, I was in Accra, Ghana, speaking at a conference. It was the 50th anniversary of the country's independence, speaking at a conference hosted by the UNIA. And I was on a panel discussion with the Honorable Dr. Julius Garvey, the son of Marcus Garvey. And at that time, people in the audience were shocked when I was revealing global GDP growth statistics. At that time, Ghana and Equatorial Guinea had the highest annual GDP growth in the country, but on that top 10 list was Angola. And at that time, Angola had the largest African sovereign wealth fund in the world, some $3 billion of sovereign wealth fund development. Does this kind of give us an indicator that
that
behind the
gives
scenes, Angola
yes,
is a powerful powerhouse of economic development?
exactly. You said it best. There is so much, not just economically, but spiritually, and all those other good things as well back in Angola. There is
Hmm.
so much there that we have no clue that we can go in and according to our people skills and according to how we maneuver, we can make those necessary connections that will last a lifetime. And I want to thank God that when I met Angolans in Atlanta for the first time in 1997, I am so thankful that they made it their business to reveal only so much to me so that I not see all of their power and what they had. For example, let me give you Brother Kasungo. Brother Kasungo took 20 years to tell me that he came from one of the most powerful families in Angola. His father was the deputy attorney general of the country.
Wow.
It took him 20 years. And once he started saying that, he just told me everything. Or at least I think. Just so yes, I I was the one God chose to lay his hands on for a reason. And I want to thank God for laying his hand on me. And I want to thank me for being the person that I am, where I didn't disappoint anybody
Hmm.
on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah. So very important that we
Yes,
have this opportunity. We take this opportunity to invest in and move positively towards sustainable future. Unfortunately, and you know, I have to too often be the bearer of bad news. Well, today is not a bad news day. Today is a news that's so great that it can wipe out and eradicate so much of the bad news that seems to be a burden around our people, a weight around our neck as we're trying to swim to freedom. We got this chain and this ball and chain of oppression in America trying to keep us from swimming to our destiny. Today is a great news day. Please, everybody, latch on to this. Let's feed energy into this. Yeah, I'm kind of on a tirade, but you got me fired up today, Brother Glenn.
yeah. And uh, I want to say one last thing, and it's the most important thing that I'm going to say today. I'm spearheading a project called Angola 2029. So
Okay.
What is Angola 2029? We are calling the African world. We're going to be calling the African world to come to Luanda, Angola. And what
Mm-hmm.
we're going to do in 2029, we're going to close out the 2019 to the 2029 decade of return. And then we're going to open up the 2030, we're going to open up the 2029 to 2039 decade of mental health, wellness, and healing for the African world. We're going to locate our best mental health professionals to lead the program. We're going to search the world over for our best professionals in mental health to lead this decade of mental health illness and 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 and, and mental health wellness and healing for the African world. Now that's just a a small part of a bigger picture to a program that's going to be 5, 6, 7 days in Luanda, Angola. And we're getting the word out early so people that want to can make it.
Okay, this is 2029 is the
20,
first trip coming out.
2029, Angola
Mm-hmm.
2029. That's the key
Mm-hmm.
word, Angola 2029.
That's right. And we got to make this move fast because as we look at the strategic plans around the world, 2029 is not that far away, just about 5 years away.
Uh-huh.
And many of these strategic plans that we revealed here as we look over the horizon, futurology, many of these plans have the target year 2030 to be completed. So
Yes,
this at least gives us a jump of 1 year when others' plans are to be in place.
yes,
So my brother, we got a couple more minutes. I had pulled up a number of notes, but at this particular point, usually we're just riffing about what's going on, and also I pulled up in preparation for today's conversation. I pulled up a whole bunch of different articles. If you don't mind, I'm just going to share with you just headlines from these articles and have you riff on them. The first one from the Macau News: a new agreement paves the way for an Angolan Namibian hydropower plant.
yes. I'm familiar with that. I love the fact that Angola and Namibia are working together on that hydro plant. I'm very familiar with that article. Thank you, Angola. Thank you, Namibia, for working together. And what they going to do, they going to share 50-50 the power that come out of that plant.
Okay. And very important, everything begins with power. Without
With power.
electricity, we're constricted. We're almost neutralized. So it becomes very, very important. Okay, let me go through these headlines that I pulled up and bear with me here. Let me push this to the page. Again, a new agreement paves the way for an Angolan Namibian hydropower plant is the first article. Let's go to the next one up on the screen, and where you is, bear with me. The next one is entitled Angola's New Gas Consortium to Begin Production in 2025. Angola is
Yes.
poised to make a significant leap in the energy sector with plans to commence the production of natural gas independent of oil by 2025. That's a very important topic, especially when we look at the Russia Ukraine conflict and the impact of Russia's cutting off natural gas development to the European Union, while African countries like Angola stepping in to fill that void becomes very, very important. Even if the Russian situation gets resolved, it may or may not, but Europe has to plan for the long term of being able to sustain natural gas to its population. Am I correct?
Exactly. I'm very familiar with that article too. And as I'm always repeating on on my Facebook page, Angola is on the move. Angola is on the move and anticipating the future very well. And so yes, that consortium there is going to be a major building block into Angola's futures growth that will propel them at levels that most people would never have imagined years ago.
Now, earlier you had talked about how excited you were about agriculture in Angola. The next headline I pulled up: Angola's 2025 budget, US 11, not 11, US $115 million boost for agricultural campaign. Should
Yes,
we be paying attention to this?
we definitely should be paying attention to it. Anytime the West is involved, my ears pop up. Are we talking about GMOs? So we got to be on the lookout for Western agriculture because that's not what we want. We do not want Western agriculture. We want African agriculture from day one until all the way to the very, very, very end.
Now, sadly, Brother Glenn, we are in the middle of this holiday shopping consumer bubble spending. According to my calculations, and I'm pretty good at this, I've been doing this every year for over a decade. African Americans are expected to spend just during the months of November and December, 61 days, an average of $1,117 $1,117 a day for
Ooh.
61 days in a row. And we're talking about Angola government has just earmarked 105 billion kwanzas, but that just translates to $115 million. We're spending, African Americans spending that in a bubble, holiday shopping
Yes,
bubble, 10 times that amount every day. Why
every day.
could we not set aside some money for long-term strategic tactical investment like the Angolan government is doing?
Yes. Uh, we are so knee deep in the matrix. The only thing that I know can fix this problem, and it can be fixed,
Mm-hmm.
is what I call sitting on the egg, never getting off the egg, the chicken sitting on the egg 7 days a week, 365 days a year, addressing this issue.
That's right.
We need constant, no let up attention on this because it is so pivotal to our
Yeah.
next step of advancement.
Mm-hmm. Next article.
2025, I got
Mm-hmm.
to say this, 2025 will be Angola's 50th independence celebration. So you know
Okay.
Angola is going to do something big. Angola just opened their new airport, which is which will serve the region and be one of a global relay airport around the world. So
That's right.
Angola is on the move, and that's not the only airport that Angola has just opened. Angola has opened another new airport for the north where the oil is, and Angola is also finishing up uh, a port, a deep water port up on the northern end as well. So what's going on in Angola is something that will uh, boggle the mind that most people will ask, how can you do this in such a short period of time? It's
Mm-hmm.
because of Angola's advanced planning. I got to say this. Behind the president, Lourenco, the next five people in charge are female, and they are young female who were taught by my wife's mother. So they are
Wow.
setting up, they are setting it up pretty. They are
Wow.
setting it up so that Lourenco can pass the baton to the next five that are young women that were taught by my wife's mother.
Wow. Next headline I pulled up. I'm so excited. Next headline I pulled up. This is from, well, I don't have the source of this, but easy to find these. Angola. The African Development Bank approves 162.76 million US dollars to support economic governance and resilience. That's a lot of money
That's
coming
a lot of
not
money.
from the IMF, not from the World Bank, but from the African Development Bank,
Yes.
headed by the
Um,
brilliant Nigerian Dr. Adesina Akinwube, or Akinwube
yes.
Adesina. Hmm.
I'm, I'm very familiar with that article. You'll be hard pressed not to find an Angolan article that I'm not familiar with.
There
Yes.
you go.
I keep telling people what I love about the leadership of Angola right now is they're not doing anything flashy. They building a foundation that will render guarantees, and there will be no room for error once it's all done.
Awesome, awesome. Last headline, I'll pull them up. This headline is entitled, and here, bear with me, I'm zooming in so we can see these. The headline is titled Angola aims to maintain its current oil output until 2030 to support growth. They're encouraging new investments to develop the hydrocarbon sector with incentives, a top official says. But of course, those new investments could be in trade and tourism, could be in smelting and processing of natural ores, could be in trade, in the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, could be in fintech development, financial technology development. I'm looking to see Angola do what Zimbabwe has done, create a central bank digital currency backed by the country's natural resources that is impervious to manipulation by Western countries and causing rapid inflation. So,
Yes,
current oil output, Angola's seeking to diversify. Am I correct?
yes, yes. Angola is diversifying at a very fast rate. Uh, mm, I'm,
Tongue, you got your tongue tied.
I
Go
got
ahead.
my I
We're going to
got my
begin to
tongue
wrap
tied.
it up. We're going to begin to
Yes,
wrap it up. But do explain what's on your mind. What are you feeling right now?
yes. Oh, I want to. This is what I want to to say. I want to say that the president of Angola right now, President Lourenco, he said before he leave office, he's going to make Angola one of the top tourism destinations in Southern Africa, and I can't help but believe that that is what's going to happen.
Well, I am with you. I believe in everything that we share today. I believe we have a critical mission to bring ourselves into the course of history. We have to close the chapter of the last 500, 600, or more years of debilitation and degradation of Africa and people on this planet, of our mother continent, of our children, our destiny, our future. Everything is aligning for the best self interest of Africa rising. And as Pan Africans, we are pledged and dedicated to be key critical components of it. That's my tirade for today, my brother. Share with us your closing thoughts. And if you have a contact information where somebody out here in our listening audience may be able to follow through with you or follow up, please do share that as well.
Yes, let me give my email address.
Hmm.
My email address, and it catches most people's attention, is African Congress at gmail.com, and you spell it the way it sounds. African Congress at gmail.com.
Awesome.
Yes.
Let me
And
read a couple of comments, and then we get your closing comment because you may want to respond to this. Alpha the Alchemist has joined the conversation. He says this is an excerpt from an article on Business Insider Africa. He said the airport named after Angola's first president is located 40 kilometers southeast of Luanda and can handle 15 million passengers and 130,000 tons of cargo annually. On November 24, Angola Air operated its first commercial passenger flight from the new airport, marking a significant milestone. And then he puts up a link to the African Congress at gmail.com. and that is your email link. Thank you, Alpha the Alchemist, for your valuable contributions to the show. You're always a great contributor. Baba Glenn, I'm going to give you the final word.
Yes, sir. I want to thank you, Brother Keedy, for allowing me to be on your show. And my final word for today is I believe wholeheartedly in Africa. I believe wholeheartedly in Angola. Upon retiring, I will relocate to Angola and be there to finish out what God has given me. And that
Hmm.
is to create the path that is so desperately needed so that others will follow. And
Oh.
Angola is working hard behind the scenes to attract African Americans over to that beautiful land, working behind the scenes very hard to attract us there. Now, most Africans that are living in Brazil come from Angola.
Hmm.
And because of that fact, we need to keep in mind it's going to happen with us or without us
Hmm.
because of the numbers of African Brazilians whose African ancestry leads them back to Angola. So let us come
Hmm.
together, our brothers and sisters from Brazil and our brothers and sisters in North America. Let us come together and meet together in Angola, Angola 2029. Let us do it.
We can do this. And also, just real quickly, one of the details I found out within the last 24 hours since you and I had this exciting conversation off the air was that the so-called 1619 project, which was perceived by many to be the first arrival of African enslaved Africans in what is now the United States. Actually, that was not. The earlier was some 65 years earlier, Africans arriving in Florida. But in 1619, those Africans that arrived there in Virginia, many of them came from Angola.
Yes, exactly. Came from Angola. Earlier, I mentioned the first African family, the Tucker. They were
Mm-hmm.
on that. They were on that ship, the White Horse. They was on the
Mm.
ship, the White Horse. It was
Wow.
intercepted. It was going over to uh old Spain. It was a Portuguese ship. It was intercepted
Mm-hmm.
by uh a British ship, and the British ship took them to Virginia. Right there. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Wow. Now we know so many details. We're going to come back and you and I will continue this conversation within a few months at the most, because I don't think that there are too many conversations about Pan-African sovereign and sustainable development that could take precedence over what you shared with us today. We're so very grateful, Baba Glenn. And again, for those of you who want to follow through with a brother, do send him a message. If nothing else, let him know how much you appreciated and what you learned from today's conversation at African Congress at
Uh-huh.
gmail.com. You and I will talk a little bit later today or sometime during this week, because we got to roll up our sleeves, my dear brother. We got
Yes.
to get busy.
We got to get busy. We got to get busy.
Yo. I want
Ashe,
to thank
ashe.
you for tuning in. And as I go to wrap it up, yes, we are grateful that we have brothers like Brother Glenn in the family, in the house. I'm so very grateful that we are about to complete 22 years of existence here on LAB Radio. Yet, I will admit, it has been an economic struggle for the last decade. And this, therefore, we had to revive our December fund drive. We're probably going to revive doing it twice a year, once in December and once in May, because quite simply, as today's program indicated, there's this will be the worst time of all for us to lose this platform is a critical area of communicating to our family the critical mission which our generation faces. If we can spend $1,117,000,000 a day for 61 days in a row on a holiday shopping bubble, consuming at the malls, consuming online, consuming alcohol and sugary beverages, and eating to gluttonous states where we all gain 4 pounds during the same time period. If we can do all of that, then we can put a little bit aside and put it into a future that our children and their children will inherit. And we can build up Angola and Congo and Ghana and Senegal, and we can build up Kenya and Uganda and Tanzania and South Africa. 55 countries on the African motherland continent are there for us to claim. But we gotta change this consumerism habit to where our businesses produce $1 for every $9 African Americans spend. That's messed up. We have the power to change that dynamic. And so on that thought, I want to send you to the front page of libradio.com. I pushed up a link in today's broadcast for you to join us, make a contribution. Doesn't have to be a lot, but it does have to be sincere. It does have to come from your heart and your mind and your vision of who we are, what is intended, what is required of us in this generation to control the future, to control the dynamics of that future. And that's why you tune in every day to your favorite. We aim to be your favorite. We are LIB Radio, we are LIB TV, and we are livinginblack.com. Peace and prosperity to each and every one of you.
Thank you.